Hey guys, Razor Blade Mango here, and today I want to talk about a subject that I'm sure none of you are surprised that I'm making another video about. Kingdom Hearts 4. Yeah, it's real. It exists. And we've seen concept footage of it. That footage that's in the trailer, that is not at all what the game is going to look like. It looks too smooth and staged for it to be actual gameplay. It is very similar to the concept footage that was shown for Kingdom Hearts 3 when that was revealed in 2013. If y'all don't remember, we got a little bit of concept footage at E3 2013 when Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced, where you see Sora riding on the Demon Tide, which you can't do in the final game, but it was there. And then we got very early footage of Twilight Town and Olympus Coliseum in the second trailer that came out during 2013 for KH3. That's what the situation is like for Kingdom Hearts 4 now, where we've gotten some early information about it, but in typical Square Enix Tetsuya Nomura fashion, it was announced way too early, and we're not going to hear about this for a long time. And, you know, we have early details about it, such as, like, it is running, the final game will be in Unreal Engine 5. And I thought the trailer, it looks really good for the most part. A little bit does kind of look rough, but that's, obviously, that's very expected because it is concept footage. We got some early story details, such as Sora is, of course, stuck in Quadratum, as was revealed in, you know, Melody of Memory. And he's got a new look to match the modern Final Fantasy aesthetic that Quadratum is apparently going for. So, what makes me the most happy about Kingdom Hearts 4, and I have my concerns about Kingdom Hearts 4 that I will definitely express, but what I like about Kingdom Hearts 4, from what I've seen, is that this really is Nomura doubling down on revitalizing Final Fantasy Versus 13, which, if you guys don't know the history of Final Fantasy Versus 13, that was Nomura's passion project for a number of years, and it never got off the ground because, one, he was like splitting his time between way too many other projects, and two, the development of Versus 13 also coincided with when Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 was released, and that was an enormous disaster. So Square Enix had to take away a lot of staff that Nomura spent a lot of time curating for his team for Versus 13, take them away from him, put them on 14 so that could be saved. And, well, that worked because now we have Final Fantasy 14, it's like a massive success now. But at the sacrifices of Versus 13, which I'm sure, you know, hurt Nomura greatly because that was his passion project that he wanted to do. And now he's taking a lot of elements from that and putting it into Kingdom Hearts 4, which I'm more than okay with. I'm fine with Kingdom Hearts 4 doing more weird shit. Like, I'm fine with that. And, like, for me, the weirder it gets and the more it leans into Versus 13, the happier I will be, because I've always wanted to see Versus 13 come to life to where I can actually play it. Like, it's the actual product that I have in my hand that I can play whenever I want. Like, I've always wanted that, so I'm happy that they're finally doing that through Kingdom Hearts 4. And then there's also some other story details that were announced during the trailer, like this has been confirmed by Square Enix themselves that Strelitzia, that's the girl that wakes up Sora, that's the one that tells him that he's in Quadratum. I'm not gonna get into the whole like Strelitzia background. Like, if you know who Strelitzia is, great. If you don't, go watch some videos about Strelitzia. There's like thousands of them up from Kingdom Hearts content creators. The Lost Masters are in Quadratum. I assume one of the people that's there is the Master of Masters. And then you got Donald and Goofy are looking for someone. And I don't know why I thought like my first reaction to that trailer, I don't know why I thought that was Axel, but it's more than likely Hades because of the transition from the blue flame to the orange hot flame when he gets mad. That has to be Hades. And I assume they're looking for Hades because they're trying to find a way to access the afterlife world that Sora is in, and getting advice from somebody who's actually a Lord of the Dead might actually be useful. So that's what I assume the reasoning is for Donald and Goofy looking for Hades, like actually wanting to talk to Hades. And then of course there's the possibility of Star Wars that might be there. There's a split-second moment in the trailer where we see what looks like the foot of an ATST, and it's that forest environment. Now that I look at it more, I can definitely see how that could be Endor, which is fine. I've always famously been against Star Wars being in Kingdom Hearts, just because I don't know, I've never really vibed with the idea of that world's aesthetic mixing with Kingdom Hearts. And there's just something very like Disney, like not Disney in a good way, but I mean like modern Disney about adding Star Wars into that. It would be like if they added the MCU into it, which like it doesn't really fit. But if they're going to have Star Wars in it, if that really was an ATST, it might not be, but there's some compelling evidence that it is, and that is Endor, then I guess I'm okay with that, simply because we now have a world in, we have a realm in Kingdom Hearts that is more based on realistic looking locations. Something that doesn't rely so much on the cartoon aesthetic of a lot of Disney stuff, where it's possible in the quadratum, like in the realm of reality or unreality, fictional reality, that Star Wars might be there, that the MCU might be there. And I'm a lot more open to Star Wars being there than the MCU being there, if I'm really being brutally honest. But as long as it's the location that's from the original trilogy, as long as we don't see any characters from like the prequels or from the God forbid the sequel trilogy, then I'm fine. I just want Sora teaming up with Luke, Han, and Leia to fight Darth Vader. That's all I would really want. If Star Wars must be here, if it must be here, if it's like a Disney mandate, then that's the best case scenario for me. It's interesting, the concept footage that we've seen where we get new gameplay things like the Keyblade now has a grapple hook on it, which that could be really cool, even though some people have said that it looks a little slow in the trailer, but I don't know, I like the way it looks. It definitely could be faster, but just the concept of the Keyblade now being a grapple hook, that opens it up for a lot of different combat possibilities, which is really cool to see. And then also, I like that, I don't know, there's something interesting about this clashing look of this giant Heartless, one of the big dark side Heartless, fighting in like what looks like a modern Shibuya, modern Japan kind of look. I don't know, there's something really interesting about it. And again, it plays into the Final Fantasy Versus 13 vibe that I get from that trailer. And I don't know how this connects to, like, that, and here's where I'll get into my concerns. What concerns me about Kingdom Hearts 4, and the reason that I am not, like, beside myself with excitement, am I interested in the game? Yes. Am I looking forward to it? Yes. But it's one of those cases where I felt like Kingdom Hearts 3 was kind of like the end of an era for me as a fan. And now we're getting into the, like, I would have been fine if they had ended Kingdom Hearts with 3. But they confirmed it long before 3 that, you know, they would continue with another saga. And one of my big concerns with Kingdom Hearts 3 that ended up being true was that they would rely a lot on the lore from the mobile shit. And you had to be in the know about some things. And they, like, really overcomplicated at this point. And that's what worries me about 4, is that now I'm gonna have to, I'm actually in the process of watching, like, catching up on, like, all the cutscenes, all the important stuff that happened in Key and all the different iterations of Key, and I'll probably have to go through and watch Dark Road at some point. And then that Missing Link mobile game, which, like another mobile game, like which I'm sure will tie into, which I'm sure ties into 4, because it's the concept is Keyblade wielders from Scala Kylum going into the modern world, and it's like, okay, fine. So I'm gonna have to look into that and get up to date with the lore and that. So that's what concerns me about 4, is that it's again adding more overcomplicated lore on top of overcomplicated lore that's already there, and again, like, doubling down on the reliance on things that are outside of the main console games, especially with it being mobile games. I have less of a problem if these games are available to play on PlayStation or Xbox or PC, but when it comes to mobile games, that's where my problems start to come in. And 3 suffered from that, where it relied on past things and then it added new things on top of it, and it's like, okay. With Kingdom Hearts 3, that was a special kind of excitement, because I've been waiting for that game for a long time, and I waited my entire middle school and high school years to get through all the spin-offs to get to Kingdom Hearts 3. Just to get to that announcement was a big deal, let alone it coming out. But now that I've had my fill of Kingdom Hearts, like, I've been spoiled with Kingdom Hearts stuff the last few years, saying that there's going to be a Kingdom Hearts 4 coming out, it's much less a surprise and more expected. It's more routine. It's more like, well, of course they would do Kingdom Hearts 4, because they set up a bunch of shit in 3. I think I've just reached that point in my life where I'm not, like, hyped, in quotes, for games anymore. So anyway, those are my initial thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 4, now that I've had some time to process my reaction to that trailer, that weirdo trailer. This is just the beginning as far as the coverage on the channel. So if you're disappointed that I'm not talking about, that I'm not doing like the extensive lore deep dive and what this could mean for the series, what worlds I want, how I think the story is gonna go, don't worry. That stuff will come eventually when the time is right. So anyway, yeah, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what y'all think about Kingdom Hearts 4. And as always, I'm Razorblade Mango. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch y'all later. Bye.